Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC.
I want to thank you for joining us today and welcome you into America's Retirement Headquarters. It's the home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Dave Ross. And myself, my name is Chris Swan. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. Once again, that's 419-794-3030. You can also go to the website, find out more about the team, set up a time to speak with them at arhq.com. Today on the show, when do you think you'll retire? We'll talk about why so many are moving up that date, whether you should max out your 401k, and how to gain confidence in retiring, all this and more. But before we dive into any of that, let me check in. Nolan, Dave, always a pleasure to be with you. How you doing today?
Doing great. Another wonderful week. This week was kind of concert week for me. So I had an opportunity, went down to Columbus, went to a concert with my sister. She lives in Columbus, and that's kind of one of the things that we like to do is get together and go to concerts. And then back here on Thursday, I was at the zoo for a country concert that they had over there with the wife and kids, and just a absolutely fantastic time. Also very excited in the fact that on our YouTube channel, we're over 150,000 views now. So it's great to have some of the YouTube people that watch us. I know a lot of you guys like to listen to us on WSBD Radio, which we've been on for now over 20 years here locally on the AM station. But, being available on demand on YouTube or any podcast and seeing 150,000 views is kind of exciting.
My daughter and her high school tennis team had 4 qualifiers for district level of competition, and they all advanced through the brackets, and they are now at the level that the next, if they can advance beyond this level, they'll be at the state tournament. And so that's been very exciting to watch that, and that will fire up again on Wednesday. So we're getting our fill of tennis in the Ross household.
Exciting times all around, and looking forward to hearing an update on that, Dave. Certainly, the YouTube channel, as Nolan mentioned there, you can search for America's Retirement Headquarters on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you consume your media, and check out previous editions of the show. Maybe you missed a question here or two, all there for you to check out at your leisure. Let's go ahead and dive into this week's show with this. Are you sitting on a large IRA or 401k balance and still contributing? Here's the thing. Sooner or later, the IRS is coming to get its take when you try to withdraw money. The Trump tax cuts, as it stands right now, are set to sunset at the end of next year. So I have to wonder, how does that affect someone who's in the middle of doing an IRA to Roth conversion, or maybe considering making a large withdrawal from their 401ks?
Well, over the past 30 years, helping so many people that are close to or in retirement time, what you find is that one of the biggest assets that they own is either their house or their retirement account. And, for decades, I think the conventional wisdom was to save and invest in a tax-deferred retirement vehicle because your tax rates would be lower when you retire. And I don't know about you, Dave, but of all the people that we've helped over the years, it seems to me that, most of our clients that are retired are spending the same, if not more income. They're traveling with their family. They're doing the things that they wanted to do. Some of them are, picking up a secondary home. And for people that are savers, taxes are not usually lower. In addition to that, you saved a little bit of money in taxes to pay money on what's now a much larger balance because of the compound growth of that account. And then in addition to that, right now, what you have is you have the issue of the out of control spending on Washington, and the fact that, we've spent ourselves into some massive debt problems that Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. Somehow they've got to figure this out, and higher taxes and your retirement account could be in their crosshairs for higher taxes. And so in my opinion, it's what we talk about here at America's Retirement Headquarters, which is our retirement team action plan. I want to share a story with you of some people that recently came in from an event that we did. Let's just call them Mike and Lori. And, in Mike's situation, he just recently retired. Lori had retired a couple of years ago. Mike is getting ready to turn 65, and Lori is a little bit younger than him. So he retired earlier this year. He needed to kind of help figuring out, navigating things like his, Medicare enrollment. What should he do with his wife's health insurance pre-65? And the big reason that he came into the office was because of the fact that he's got about $2 million saved up in tax-deferred retirement accounts. So Mike's a great example of a saver. He put money aside. He did what he was supposed to do, a good steward of his money. He's built up this big nest egg, but now he's thinking, well, now that I'm retired, it's a big tax bomb to take this money out. And so even in his situation, what he was looking at doing is he was considering the options of an end-of-the-year Roth conversion. And, for those folks that are listening, if you have more than $250,000 saved up in your retirement account and you would like a complimentary 2024 tax roadmap, now is an optimal time to get that taken care of. In fact, if you're one of the listeners from our radio show, or if you're watching this on YouTube or one of our podcasts, and you're one of the top 5 callers that call in and have more than the $250,000, we would be happy to give you that complimentary tax roadmap. But in their situation, the end goal, I think, for everybody is to try to get as much money over to the tax-free category as possible. Mm-hmm. And, the bottom line for Mike and Lori, the same would be true. But it's not as easy as just looking at doing a Roth conversion. So think about the moving parts that they had in their situation. First of all, he's retired earlier this year, but as he told me when he came out to the Economic Summit a week or two ago, he just got an offer to go back to work as a consultant. So now he has an opportunity to go back and work a little bit more on his schedule, but still get some really good income as a consultant. His wife's getting health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. So they had submitted what they had felt their income was going to be for this year. The problem is when they file their actual tax return next year, if they do the Roth conversion, if he takes some more income from consulting work, they could lose the tax credit that they had. And all of a sudden, when they go to file their taxes next year in April, the government could ask for all of that credit back. And, if they got a credit of $1,000 a month, that's a $12,000 tax bill that could be an unexpected shocker that you find out when you go meet with your CPA or accountant. Now, the other thing is he had decided to turn on Social Security. So like many retirees, he thought, well, I'll just start collecting Social Security when I retire. He had already turned in his paperwork prior to getting this offer. Well, you take that income and it also factors into Social Security taxation. In looking at a situation that there definitely can be some strategies. And again, the bottom line is, as I think Mike and Lori, and I think you as a listener, you need to work on getting the government to stay away from your money, but simply doing a Roth conversion without strategic and tactical planning could be a mistake. This is an area where you want to talk not only to a financial professional, but you want to run the numbers, maybe even look at doing a mock tax return before year end with an accountant or CPA. And it's always important to do that before you make important financial decisions. But, those of you that have high balances in retirement account, the government is not going to be your friend. In fact, if Mike and Lori ultimately leave that money to their children, there's money left over for high balance retirement accounts. I'm telling you that, in my opinion, is another area that could be a nightmare for a family. So the retirement team action plan, and included with that complimentary roadmap, would help out, I think, addressing the issue of taking a look at Roth conversions before end of the year.
I think a lot of times, too, when you look at, not specifically in Mike and Lori's situation, but other folks, I have clients who basically say, gee, what I have, my bills and my level of debt, which is basically zero, I can live on my Social Security, and good for those folks. However, when they get to 73 and have to start taking required minimum distributions, that becomes an eye-opener. So when you start looking at a person that's either newly retired or going to consider retiring shortly, it's worthwhile to have a discussion about, should we turn on a trickle of income? Should we start the food chain, the pay chain moving for them prior to when the required distributions kick in, so that the impact of these so-called tax bombs isn't a maximum impact. So I think for a lot of people, they should take a hard look at, does it make sense to turn on some income early on in the retirement process? If you have Roth assets, you don't ever have to take a required distribution from that. Mm-hmm. But like I said, every situation is different. Mike and Lori, that's got a lot of potential issues if the wrong decisions are made. So that's even more of a reason why you need to work with us here at America's Retirement Headquarters to make sure that all the bases are covered.
And you could start that process by reaching out and giving a call, 419-794-3030. I'm hesitant to do this, but I feel like I should give credit where credit is due. The government, specifically the IRS, they are very clever in knowing the power in being able to wait. They're counting on you to not do anything and just go with the status quo. So in the form of RMDs, they're going to get their fair share. Perhaps some would say more than their fair share. If it is an IRA that's passed on to a loved one, getting their cut as well there. It's not to say that there aren't ways to minimize that, but you just have to be aware of that. And that is something with the tax roadmap, with the retirement team action plan. The guys at America's Retirement Headquarters can show you how to minimize the amount that you and your loved ones have to give to the IRS. Obviously, pay what you're obligated to, not a penny more. It all begins with that tax roadmap. To receive that again, 419-794-3030, or you can go to the website, which is arhq.com. We often talk about the fear of spending that people have after they've transitioned into retirement. It often stems from, uncertainty over how long their money will last. Financial professor Derek Tharp tells Morningstar that fear could also spread to deciding whether or not to buy an annuity.
When it comes time to actually make that shift into spending mode, that can be really tough. There are ways that tools like annuities could help with some of that in terms of, people look at spending like a pension-like income or an annuity-like income stream differently than they do from pulling from their portfolio. The challenge there as well, though, I think, is some people will also look at that initial, say, annuity contribution as a spend in itself. And so that might be scary to try and overcome that. And I think that's where we get the whole annuity puzzle and why aren't people actually wanting to take lump sums and put them into these annuity products at the rates that a lot of research would indicate could be beneficial for retirees.
And as we said throughout the show, annuities aren't right for everybody out there. There is no one-size-fits-all strategy. But how do you help a client determine if an annuity fits into their overall retirement strategy?
When we sit down with either a client or a prospective client, the one thing that's really, really important in coming up with the quote, their number is, how much reliable income will they need? When we do a retirement team action plan, we want to make sure that, first and foremost, that their requirements in terms of reliable monthly income are covered, because then that allows us, with the rest of the retirement team action plan, is to figure out which would be the best ways to deploy their investable assets to cover potential inflationary situations down the road, determine where additional sources of cash could come from if they're needed for either emergencies or planned situations. So reliable income is very important. So when you look at the categories that fall under the reliable income, you're looking at pensions as being one. Social Security certainly falls into that area. And if those two areas are a little bit short in terms of where the client needs to be, then I think that really opens up the door where an annuity discussion should be held. Because if outliving my money a real issue, and here at America's Retirement Headquarters, we want to be able to do that with a 90% confidence level or higher, which is one of the goals of the retirement team action plan. So when you work with us, we are going to manage to fit your needs and goals at retirement, but we're also going to try to get enough of your assets in the reliable income category, knowing where your needed income is going to come from.
Yeah, I think, looking at the independent income system and developing a plan to put that in place. And let me share a story with you with a recent client that we helped out. And we'll call her Tanya. Tanya came in. She's looking to retire before the end of the year, worked at the same place for her whole life, put money aside and kind of saved in her 401k, and then has the opportunity to take a lump sum pension or a monthly annuity payout that she could get. And, both of them offer pros and cons of what she does, whether she takes the monthly annuity from the company or whether she rolls that over into a self-directed IRA. She's really kind of attracted to having that ability to have access to the bigger lump sum. But I would agree with Dave with what you said, is that if you take that money in a lump sum, you need to make sure that you have enough money set aside to cover your reliable income needs. So in that first meeting, when we talked a lot about her goals and objectives, we determined that she needed, $3,400 a month as her net take-home pay. It'd be great if she continued to have that same net take-home pay in retirement time. And so in working the numbers backwards, we knew her Social Security was $2,000 a month, and that left her about a $1,400 a month gap that she's going to need to cover from her investment income. We were able to go into our software and we were able to look at the annuity rates that are out there and get the offers from some of the top 3 insurance companies. And when I'm looking at reliable income, I break it into 2 categories. One is, what is your minimum monthly income needs? Meaning that there's a basic need that you have to cover your living expenses at home. Your food, groceries, health, things like that. Over and above that is an ideal income. That's taking trips and vacation and doing fun stuff. In looking at her minimum monthly income needs, we knew Social Security, check, right? $2,000 a month. We also know that we needed to cover that gap. And one of the ways that you can do that is, again, get competing offers from the insurance companies of America that will tell you, if you deposit this amount of money, they'll contractually guarantee this amount of income. Now, the guarantees are based upon the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, so you want to know what type of company you're working with. But for the most part, that can be income Tanya can count on for the rest of her lifetime. In her situation, the second thing that we did is we figured, in life, 5 or 10 years from now, things are going to get more expensive than they are today. So then we took and we set aside a bucket of money and we put it in an account that at any point in the future, she has the ability to turn on the income to get a pay raise. So one day, 5 or 10 years from now, when she comes to us and says, guys, things are more expensive, we can kick on that other income stream. Or, what if Social Security does what they say they're going to do in 10 years from now and they can only pay 80% of benefits? Well, now she's got a backup plan in place. Then what we did is we took the other, roughly half of the money, we built up her emergency account, because I think it's a good idea to keep like 6 months worth of living expenses in liquid emergency money market type accounts. And the rest of the money, we invested it into blue chip dividend paying companies. And when you looked at the dividends and interest that are generated, that was about $650 a month of income that gives her money for some fun stuff. And then hopefully the stock part of the portfolio grows over time. And because she has enough reliable income, she doesn't have to worry about, what's going to happen today or tomorrow in the stock market. If she just lives off of the dividends and interest and the predictable income from the annuity, she's in really good shape. So if you're looking at your situation, maybe you have an annuity, maybe it's an older annuity, wondering if you should get an annuity and how does it fit into your situation. Again, the independent income system can be the strategy to kind of walk you through that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a 4-step process to help you figure this out. First of all, we're going to help you evaluate your income needs. That broken into 2 categories means your minimum monthly income and your ideal income. Then we're going to help determine how much of that is covered from reliable income sources, and we'll talk about, if there's a gap there, ideas on how to cover the gap. Number 2 is we're going to help you understand your risk tolerance. We're going to give you a printout that helps you measure anywhere from 0 to 100 what the risk level is in your portfolio. When we got done with Tanya's portfolio, she had a risk score of 26. So in terms of, low, medium, or high risk, it puts her at more of a low risk tolerance. And, because she's not somebody that's had a lot of experience investing in the stock market, I think the worst thing that we could do is take all that money from the lump sum pension and put it in the stock market and hope and pray that it works out. That hope and prayer is not a strategy when it comes to retirement planning. Number 3 is we're going to consider longevity risk. The advantage of the annuity is an insurance has a contract that's obligated as long as they're in business to continue to pay her that income for the rest of her lifetime. So she can put her head on her pillow at night and know, live a long time, your income's not going to stop. And, number 4 is, access to your health. Whether it's an immediate, a single life, some of these annuities that are immediate or only single life, may not be in your best interest if you have poor health. And in that situation, you may want to take a look at other things besides the annuity payout options. There could be other choices that are out there. So we at America's Retirement Headquarters can absolutely help you determine if an annuity can fit into your retirement strategy. All you have to do is reach out.
And the number to reach out, of course, is 419-794-3030. I want to zero in on the words that both Dave and Nolan said there. It's not right for everybody out there. It can be a valuable part. Come in with an open mind. Again, there's no cookie cutter approach at the Retirement Guys formula, but finding one, it could be a valuable part. It's certainly worth taking a look at, especially if it can address that fear of spending or the fear of outliving your money. Certainly worth taking the time as part of that independent income system. 419-794-3030. Or the website is arhq.com. I ran across an interesting study, guys, about our thoughts. It found that the average person has anywhere from 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts each day. Of those, more than 80% are negative or repetitive thoughts. And it reminded me of people who keep thinking about retirement but don't actually take the first step to prepare for it. What do you see at the turning point, as the turning point in a retirement planning meeting, when someone goes from feeling negative about the whole process, the outlook, to something positive?
Chris, I would say I have actually seen multiple times that aha moment when we've had folks come in and gone through our planning process. And, a lot of times many times people don't understand the overall process. And so they get these negative feelings about retiring. And, we want to help them get confidence in retiring. Mm-hmm. And, whether they work with us, I'm obviously biased myself that they should work with America's Retirement Headquarters, or whether you do it on your own, I also have a couple of points that I'll walk you through on how to get to that aha moment about retiring with confidence. Number 1, we create what is called the Retirement Team Action Plan. So when you're creating a team action plan, what you want to do is you want to break your financial situation into 4 categories: taxes, estate planning, asset protection, and money management. Then you want to write down who do you know that's professionals that can help you out in each of those areas. And then reach out to those professionals. That's typically what we do of coordinating it together, but each of those professionals can review each of those sections with the goal to identify where there could be threats that you are facing and or maybe opportunities that you could capitalize. As you identify any area in each of those, write them down on an action plan. So number 1 is you want to create a financial inventory. That financial inventory is going to give you a summary household of all of your assets, your income sources, your insurances. So you've got this 1-page summary that shows you what your financial inventory looks like. Number 2 is you want to build out that comprehensive retirement plan. One of the things that we can do is we can take all that information and we can go into financial planning software. So if you look at what is called Monte Carlo analysis, we can stress test a plan to tell you the probability of success. And as like Dave talked about, we want to see that probability of success to be over 90%. Number 3 is look for ways to maximize your income sources. Number 4 is to pay off and stay out of debt. Number 5 is to understand your healthcare costs, including the long-term care expenses. Number 6 is, again, to utilize the independent income system. And if you haven't watched the video on that, you can just go on Google and type in the independent income system and watch the 15-minute video on that segment. And number 7 is if you want to be confident and stay confident in retirement time, what you want to do is you want to be flexible and adjust your plan along the way. So, know that things that you set up today, there's going to be things that happen in life and you've got to change and adapt. It could be, changes within a household of losing a loved one or adding a new loved one to the family. That could be, market conditions, good or bad. So those 7 steps are going to be how to take you and get you confident in retirement. And if you need professional guidance, just reach out to us. we can put together that retirement team action plan. That's something that we do as a complimentary service for folks that have more than $250,000 saved up in retirement assets.
Again, it's all about controlling what you can control, and developing this plan is a great way to get started. The phone number to do just that, 419-794-3030. Once again, 419-794-3030. Or if it's easier for you to remember, you can also reach out day and night at arhq.com. Despite all the different factors going on in the world, the stock market continues to dance with record highs. But RFD TV's Scott Shalady thinks there is a disconnect between the market and the rest of the economy. He tells Fox Business he thinks a correction, well, it's coming.
The last time we got interest rates really low, we pushed savers and retirees into the stock market, and they benefited from that because we saw a big run up in stocks over the last 15 years. But now that we're at all-time highs and we start cutting rates, where are these retirees to go? I mean, are we expecting to continue with all-time record highs going higher? When's the last time we had the economy at record highs and the stock market at record lows? I don't think that's ever really happened. So it's only really happening one way, that we're actually cutting rates with stocks at all-time highs. So you can't tell me that things are fantastic and then we have to go cut rates. Something's got to give, baby, as they say.
So what are you telling clients that have enjoyed the market highs? Is it time now to try and perhaps safeguard retirement portfolios from this volatility?
Well, I would say, speaking of dancing with record highs, we just recently had our economic summit at the Hilton Garden Inn, and it is one of our most popular events because we're talking about the state of the economy, recapping the markets year to date and giving our outlook on the future. And we had dueling pianos was our entertainment, and absolutely a fantastic job that they did. Scott, who is busy working with Medicare and helping everybody out, got a night off where he got to dance a little bit on the dueling pianos. It was a great event as well. But, one of the things that we did talk about that event is we talked about, is it time to try and safeguard your retirement portfolios? And, you can go back and forth and kind of look at this in different perspectives. Number one is, I talked at the event about it depends upon where your time frame is in life. My son who works here, he's in our 401k, he's in his 20s. Whether the market goes up or down next year has really little to no impact on his 401k. If anything, should sock as much away in the tax-free 401k as possible and build up that money, because when he gets to retirement, that's when he's going to need it. But for those folks that are close to or in retirement time, what happens in the market in the near term can have a pretty big impact one way or another. Now, the positive is we've got back-to-back years in a row that the stock market has posted double-digit returns. So, for a lot of investors, it's given them a little bit of a breathing room. It's given them some nice growth in the portfolio. And if we use history as a guideline, there's been multiple other scenarios where you've seen the market have more than 2 years in a row of positive gains. So using history as a guideline, it would say that there, can be more positives coming up in the future. The other thing is if you look at the history of what happens in the market when the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, it kind of breaks into two categories. First, you have a interest rate cut that's due to a result of a crisis. So in 2008 or in 2000, when we had a crisis happening in the economy and the Federal Reserve was cutting interest rates, you historically saw a lot of volatility and a continued shock to the market. In this environment, what we see right now is that the government is being proactive of cutting interest rates, which, would be a positive in many situations for companies, especially that are using debt, like growth-oriented type companies. You also, I think, have to be careful about what sectors that you own in this type of environment as well, with markets at record high. If we do go into a recession, things like utilities, consumer staples, those categories could be more resilient than, areas that oftentimes involve discretionary spending. Leisure, I could cut out my trip if times are tough next year, but I'm not going to stop going and getting groceries at the grocery store as a good example. In general, if we think about investing, though, you think of buy low, sell high. History would say that the markets are at record high. So knowing what steps are going to be taken in your portfolio to safeguard it is extremely important, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to fall into that situation where you're that emotional investor and, you're feeling euphoric. You're feeling like everything's great. Things are going to keep going up all the time. And then all of a sudden a shock to the system happens. And I can pretty much guarantee that's probably what's going to change, is an unexpected shock to the system. And then the markets react negatively. And then after the markets react negatively, then you make the change to the portfolio. That is a bad investment strategy. You want to avoid that. So what you want to do is you want to consider incorporating what I would refer to as a downside risk management system in place. And a downside risk management system can be a lot of different things, and we can explain to you in terms that you can incorporate into your portfolio. A couple of ideas is, one is you could take some of the chips off your table, if you will. The first time I ever took my wife to Las Vegas, I remember the trip really well. We were young and broke and didn't have a little bit of money, but we had a little bit to have some fun while we were in Las Vegas, the first time for us there together. And I was showing her craps, and it didn't matter what she did. The dice were hot. She was rolling and making money. And, when she built up chips and she got her stack a little bit high, when we got to a certain point, in fact, we wanted to go to like a show and go see one of the shows or have a nice dinner. So when we had enough money and had enough profits, she would take that money off the table and put it in her pocket. And then that ensured that we locked in that gain so we could go have a nice dinner. We saw some great shows. And so think about that concept and applying it to your situation. If you've had significant growth in your equities, it's never a bad idea, I think, to lock in some profits and just lock in, where you're at as well. The other thing is, investors sometimes will try to get in and out of the market. I met this gentleman. He came to a seminar about 2 years ago. He never became a client of the firm, but he came in for that first appointment meeting. And what he shared with me is, 2 years ago, he got out of the stock market, went all into a cash position because he didn't like the current administration, was going to wait it out until the elections were over. And what happened is, the reality is, he just missed out on 2 years of double-digit back-to-back growth and locked in interest rates at 2 years ago, which was quite a bit lower time than they are today. So going in and out of the market, you've got to get it right twice. You've got to figure out when to get out and then when to get in. And that can be an emotional draining battle for most investors responding to market conditions. There are some things. We had 2 guest speakers that were at the event that talked about some of the downside risk management that we use here at America's Retirement Headquarters. So we can incorporate what I would refer to as a gas pedal in your portfolio, meaning that we're going to be more adaptive to market conditions. So as conditions deteriorate, we help you develop a strategy that allows you to slow down. In the perfect world, what we do for folks is we build an all-weather portfolio. That way your investments aren't left out in the wilderness to figure out what the weather is like. We figure out what's the right temperature for you. We bring you inside and we build out this plan called the independent income system that's designed to weather whatever environment that comes. But in general, again, with the markets at record high, now is the time to run the fire safety drill. Think about in COVID. Think about in 2008. Think about, 3 years ago, or when we had the last downturn in the market. With the current strategy that you're in, were they proactive to help you try to limit losses, or were they responsive, or were you responsive after something bad happened? Because you want to be proactive in this environment right now while markets are at record highs, taking steps to know what your downside risk management program is before something bad happens.
Dave, you mentioned the tech bubble, and I can't remember. That ended well for everybody, right? There were no repercussions on that. No, it's quite the contrary. There are going to be market downturns over the course of your retirement. We're talking a 30-year retirement. Of course, you're going to see fluctuations in there. What you want to do, what you don't want to do actually, is respond emotionally and make knee-jerk reactions to those. Having a consistent plan in place, that is something, not quite like the Vegas model that Nolan was talking about earlier, because what's true about Vegas? Well, the house always wins. You don't want to do that. You want to find those opportunities when there are threats and be wary of the threats when there are potential opportunities. It's what the team at America's Retirement Headquarters does day in and day out. with all their clients, and they can help you out. That all you need to do to get started is give a call, 419-794-3030 to set up a time, or go to the website, arhq.com. Sometimes we hear about people intending to delay their retirement and work past 70. Well, good luck with that. Certainly hope that happens. But a recent study found the average over 50 worker expects to retire at 67, and the average American winds up retiring earlier at 62, often because they were forced into early retirement. So I have to wonder, do you have questions who've changed their retirement date from later to sooner? And how do you go about readjusting their financial plans to make that feasible?
I would say, Chris, I have seen that more often than not. And, you have to have a plan, I think, to look at forced early retirement. So it's oftentimes very common that people say, you know what, things are great. I'm going to probably work here for a couple more years. And I could see we're in the study, it says age 67. But let me share a story with you. I was a couple of weeks ago meeting with a client, and what she explained to me is that she's worked for the same company her entire adult life. And this company was recently purchased by somebody else. The new owners came in, and the new owner said, everybody here, you have to complete a new employment application, and you'll have to go through a complete employment process, and we're going to decide if we offer you or somebody else the job. She felt just like in this situation. She was like, you know what? I've dedicated my entire career to this company, and they want me to fill out a job application and go through the whole resume process all over again. She's like, phooey on that. I'm in good shape. I'm just going to go ahead and retire now. I think she falls into that category at about age 62. Had another gentleman that I recently met with in the trucking industry. Similar situation, the new rules and regulations that are coming out that are being, forced into his business. He's just like, you know what? This is time for me to kind of exit stage left. I've done what I wanted to, and I've been good. And then I've also seen in other situations, I've seen the other flip into the scale where the other half of the time it's, an unexpected healthcare crisis that comes up. It could be them or a loved one, and all of a sudden they're dealing with the issues of cancer or some type of chronic illness, and they're saying, I wanted to work till 67, but I just can't physically. I can't take the stress, or I can't take the health. I've got to put myself first. So what you want to do is, if you think about being in a forced situation, have the plan that you plan on working for a long time, but just like they taught me in the United States Marine Corps, is have a backup plan, and then run that backup plan so you know what it looks like today. Because the last thing you want to do is have something unexpected happen, and it puts you in a crisis situation. And in a crisis situation, without running through that, that's oftentimes where you can have some of these mistakes that come in, and they can be costly mistakes. Look, this is your retirement. You get one shot at it. You want to get it right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to, number one, assess your current financial situation. Number two is I want you to ensure that you have an emergency fund in place. You should have 6 months worth of living expenses built up. Number three is I want you to evaluate your retirement income sources and think about ways that you could explore what is called a bridge option. So if it's age 65 before you're on Medicare, you're going to need a bridge for your health insurance costs from 62 to 65. If you want to delay taking Social Security, I oftentimes don't think taking Social Security at 62 is a good idea. You need a bridge, and that bridge could be pulling money out of your 401k or retirement assets. Number four is you're going to need to review your investment strategies. Sometimes people unexpectedly lose their job because of something that's happening bad in the economy. Right now we have a healthy labor employment market, but in a recession, there could be just the opposite of that. So in a recession, what that means is that means the market could also be down, right? So if the market's down and you lose your job, that's a double whammy. And in addition to that, if you have a 401k and you have a large balance in your company stock, and they cut you because your company stock is also down and the stock market's down, that's like a triple whammy effect. So before something bad happens, just know, how to review your investment strategies. And if you're within 5 years of retirement time, it's crucial to have a backup plan and have, 2 to 5 years worth of money set aside in accounts that aren't necessarily subject to market decline. So you have a bucket of money that you could live off of not being in a situation where you're forced to sell off your investments because you were forced into early retirement and it just so happens to be in a down market. And number 5 is you got to stay positive and stay flexible. This is one more event in life. But you got this. I believe in you. You'll get through this. You'll find another opportunity. But if you need a sounding board, you need somebody to talk to and walk you through that forced early retirement. It's something that, we've dealt with on a really common situation. We can help you navigate things.
I said it at the start of this question, and I think I could speak on behalf of Nolan and Dave, and honestly the entire team at America's Retirement Headquarters. We genuinely hope, if it is your desire to work until a certain age, until 70 or whatever, it's your desire to, not out of necessity, but you want to. We hope that is possible. We hope that you get to do that. But as these studies show, it is occasionally taken out of our hand. It is better to go and have a plan in place just in case that situation does arise, whether it's for the positive or the negative, that you do retire early, like a fire extinguisher or a spare tire in your car. Hope you don't have to use it, but you're certainly grateful if you do. Plan ahead, as the Boy Scouts motto is, of course, be prepared. All starts with a phone call. Setting up a time, start developing that plan. 419-794-3030, or the website, which is arhq.com. A recent survey asked if retirees and pre-retirees understood Social Security. Over half of them said yes, they do. But if you ask their advisors, only 10% said that their clients actually do understand Social Security. Do you guys agree with that? What is it about Social Security that could be so confusing?
Most people will look at Social Security and say, if I turn it on today, I'm going to receive $2,000 a month or whatever that number is. Well, what happens if you're looking at turning on income from Social Security while you're still working? And I've come across situations where a person retires, turns on Social Security, then they realize, oh, I'm bored stiff. I really want to go back to work. So they go back to work, and then they get caught in that trap where they cannot, they lose their Social Security because they earn too much money. And it really, they may understand on a baseline level what it is, but when it comes to the intricacies of what can affect your benefits, it's really an interesting thing. So anybody that's born after 1960, their full retirement age is 67 years old. And somehow a lot of folks get the 65 ingrained in your head, or they say, well, I'm not sure Social Security is going to be around, so I'm eligible to draw at 62. I want to turn it on so I can get in line and collect my benefits. Well, there's going to be ramifications. Like I said, if you're still working, there will be ramifications. And the other thing is, once you make that decision about when to turn on Social Security, you're locked in for life. You are not, you get one shot to get it right. And if you don't get it right, there could be a price to be paid financially for the rest of your life. And even if you think you're not going to live a long time because mom and dad didn't live very long into their 70s, there's a lot of folks now with medical advancements living into their 80s and 90s. Shoot, my wife's grandmother lived to be 112. Can you imagine that? So, you got to really get your arms around every aspect of Social Security. If you take benefits, how much of those benefits are going to be taxed? What's going to happen if your spouse has a governmental pension and you're collecting a Social Security and they realize, whoa, boy, I can't collect that. There's an offset for having a government pension. There's all kinds of pitfalls that you can get trapped in Social Security if you don't make the right decision.
We run these Social Security optimization reports. If you're not collecting Social Security now and you would like a Social Security optimization report, call us and let's kind of run the numbers. when you stop and you add it up and you add up how much income you're going to collect in Social Security and how much your spouse is, and you take that over the course of your retirement and your life expectancy, your Social Security benefits oftentimes can be the biggest asset that you own. The financial value of those could be bigger than your investment accounts. Who knows? But over time, it often is $1 million decision. And what you have, and I think, is you have a majority of the time, people just automatically turn it on right away at retirement time. Or, like you said, they think, nobody in my family lived a long time, so I'm just going to turn it on right away. And that could be a financial disaster, because the difference between the best approach and the earliest approach can mean tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime. I would agree there's the uncertainty of how long you'll live. I mean, if we knew that answer, it'd make it a lot easier. But look, if I was placing an odds, I would bet on you living a long time. So I don't want to bet on you saying that somebody in your family or everybody died early, and so you better get it now, and then all of a sudden you're past that age and you're looking at me and I'm looking at you. I'm betting on you living a long time. We're going to help you understand how your benefits are calculated, get a copy of your benefits, help you at ssa.gov. We're going to help you understand what your full retirement age is, the pros and cons of collecting early or going late, understand how taxation works on Social Security benefits. Note, it's a lot better than it can be in traditional IRA or 401ks. Understand the impact of survivor and spousal benefits. And we're going to run that analysis to help you figure out what could be your best approach, ultimately by planning for longevity, but running scenarios if that doesn't happen. So if you're not collecting Social Security, you want to understand this could be the best hour that you've invested into income planning and retirement time is getting that Social Security optimization report. And that's exactly what the team here at America's Retirement Headquarters can do for you. We can put together the optimization report and help you make an educated decision about what could be the best decision on when to take Social Security income benefits.
Again, could be an hour of your time, could be the most important hour, and it's not going to cost you anything but that time. Making sure you get it right, all about running those numbers. Never my forte, never my strong suit in the working world, in school. Perhaps you're the same way, but the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, they know a thing or two about numbers, and so here is their number so you can reach out and have that report run. 419-794-3030. Again, complimentary Social Security optimization report. 419-794-3030. You can always find them online, arhq.com. As always, I want to thank you. Appreciate you joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys formula and America's Medicare Associates. Have a great week out there. Be safe. Gentlemen, always grateful for the time. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, we'll be back next time right here on Toledo's largest talk station, 1370 WSPD, on YouTube and your favorite podcast. Just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home of the Retirement Guys formula and America's Medicare Associates.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.